All right, brother, we are live. Tacozilla here with Dadman. These are the movies that any serious movie fan should watch, and I think it applies to really any age range. But if you're getting into cinema or you already are in cinema and you haven't watched these movies, we cannot strongly recommend enough. All right, so why don't you kick us off, Dadman?
So we talked about this as on an earlier podcast, but Black Hawk Down is on.
We have stirred up the hornet's nest here. We're fighting the entire city.
RPG! Black Hawk down. We got a Black Hawk down.
We're gonna get on my list. It's one of my favorite movies. I just think it's a very, very good war movie. And it doesn't glorify war. It doesn't. It kind of shows you, the pain and, sometimes the futility of it and so forth. And good cast, good story, true story,
I have a movie on my list that kind of fulfills a similar...
Did you memorize your list?
I did not memorize my list. This is just another pretty picture for everyone to look at.
Okay.
But my first one is Heat.
We've been face to face, yeah. But I will not hesitate. Not for a second.
Maybe that's the way it'll be.
Because heist films are awesome and action is awesome. And
Well, if it's done right, and he did, so you can't say any heist film / crime film is going to be great, because mostly they aren't. They can be somewhat entertaining, but Heat's just got great cast.
good action
Yeah.
is amazing. Heat captures everything that should be captured in a crime film, right? And it's like, heists can kind of get a bit gimmicky where it's just very convoluted.
Yeah.
And this is like, for a heist movie, exactly as it should be.
Yeah.
And you got just probably the best acting ever on top of that.
Right. Some great actors in their prime.
Yep. So if you haven't tried out that genre / subgenre yet, you gotta try out Heat. Or if you do like that subgenre and you haven't seen it,
You gotta see Heat.
yeah.
Number 2 for me is The Exorcist.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
Again, is another one we talked about at other time or another podcast, but the preeminent horror film of our time, and it's 50 years old, and it's a great movie.
I have that on my list as well.
Okay.
I think it is true when I've watched it enough times to now understand why people see. What tripped me up before is people said this is the scariest movie of all time. And I can see that. But coming at it from a view that I watched it, as you said, 5 decades after it came out, it's not as scary to me, but it's so well done. It's just a perfectly crafted horror movie that has themes much deeper than any horror film has almost ever done.
And the effects were so good.
They're timeless.
They couldn't do it better today with all the advanced CGI. They couldn't do it any better. They could maybe do CGI to make. Well, no, they couldn't. They couldn't do it any better.
Practical is almost always better, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about Black Hawk Down, which I also mentioned, that their effects, no CGI, just kick-ass effects. Very well done. So what's your number 2?
So this isn't necessarily... it's not ranked.
Mine aren't either. It's just the order that I put them down.
But the second film, Terminator 2. which we recently talked about on our T1 and T1 or T1 and T2. And one of the things that I couldn't shut up about that I'm going to bring up again here is, like I said, with Heat, the action is awesome. There's a shootout in LA that's just spectacularly done. But Terminator 2, I think, rivals that and also maybe takes it up a notch. There's just gunfire, bombs. The action has maybe never ever been done better.
Yeah, at the company headquarters.
If you just want to
crazy, it just blows you away. It's just so intense.
Adrenaline, gunfire, action personified. This is that movie. And if you want to see action done just about as perfectly as it can be, Terminator 2 is my...
Yeah, sometimes they get carried away with the guns, but this was fitting.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is super intense, but it's needed. You know what I mean? It sells. I have Goodfellas.
What do you do?
I'm in construction.
You look like a gangster.
Never rat on your friends.
Bing, what are you doing here? I thought I told you to go fuck your mother.
And always keep your mouth shut.
I don't feel like you're in construction.
Oh, I'm a union delegate.
I have that on my list as well.
Yeah, I mean, just very, very good story. Good acting.
I think if you like gangster films, that is the one to watch.
Yeah.
I've seen Godfather Part 1. I haven't seen Part 2 yet, so... I mean, if you want to make an argument, that's the obvious avenue you can take against me there. But I will say it's so tightly paced. It's just very efficiently done. It is never, ever gives you the chance to lose interest in it. It's just...
Right.
It's Scorsese's best as far as
just,
pacing a film.
There's no like kind of lulls in the movie. It's just always moving forward.
And it's one of his films that I think he perfected the arc of storytelling, where the first half is just, you're like, wow, like this is this wild ride he's on becoming a gangster, and then exactly the midway point is when it starts to fall. He did the same thing with Wolf of Wall Street, which was a longer movie that also felt really spectacular pace because it didn't feel that long, but Goodfellas is shorter and it's paced same way, and you're just like, this is a thrill ride.
Right.
Next film I have, 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Hal, despite your enormous intellect, are you ever frustrated by your dependence on people to carry out actions?
Not in the slightest bit.
Yeah, I have that too.
It's a perfect marriage as far as amazing visuals and transcendent storytelling.
Yes.
It's profound in what it's showing you and in what it's telling you. It's a film that you can think about for years after you've seen it, and something that you will remember for years after you've seen it.
And there's parts of the movie where there's no sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they show spacecraft.
Yeah, it's
like,
shots in space, and it gives you the feel that you're in space because it's completely silent. It's I think this is a movie that is something that touches upon perfect as close as you can.
Yeah.
There
was no mainstream actors in that movie, or no.
It doesn't even need it. It
doesn't need it. But I'm just saying, and then the studio heads are like, well, who's gonna be the lead? It's like Jon Snow.
Like the person who watches this in theaters that tells everyone they know is going to be what sells the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And it did.
Yeah. All right. I have Jaws on there.
You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living until he bites you.
I think that's a good story.
I've seen that as a younger lad, and I still appreciate that film. But I want to watch it again.
You should watch it again. I mean, it just doesn't age. It doesn't age at all.
It just seems like
do
you look at it as a horror movie or just a really good Like,
it's kind of like a hybrid in that way, and it's, I mean, you know, the shark is terrifying, you know, still, but then you got good actors. You got Robert Shaw, who's maybe one of the best, who started smoking 4 packs of cigarettes a day for that role, and died of lung cancer, by the way. And Robert Shaw, I saw in a few movies that he's just like a super intense actor. You know, he plays intense.
See the guy who says it's like those eyes.
Yeah. Well,
I love that guy too.
I can't remember his name, but and then Dreyfuss was in it, so it's a good, huge, great cast. That trio there, and it's like a good story too, although it's not like
it's that film. Now we might. I don't want to take it too far down a path, but that was the film that created the blockbuster.
It may have. Either that or Star Wars.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Who was
Spielberg?
Spielberg, yeah. Which, like, after that they said, whatever you want to do,
and he
knock
has
yourself
done
out.
exactly that.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen like any of his filmography, and I need to. But I think he gets overlooked because he's like
ubiquitous.
Yeah.
He's like Band-Aids.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't think about how important they are, but because they're just always there.
Next film I got is the one that filled my Black Hawk Down role. That's Full Metal Jacket. First and foremost, the first half is like almost unanimously considered one of the best, like, hour and 20 of a movie ever.
I am Gunnery Sergeant Hardman, your drill instructor. Hold! You will speak only when spoken to. And the first and last words out of your filthy sewers will be, sir. Do you maggots understand that? Sir, yes, sir. I can't hear you. Sound off like you got a pair. Sir, yes, sir.
It's good, yeah.
For that on its own, you should watch it.
Yeah.
Like, because you're going to love the first half. And in my opinion, I think the more you watch the film, the more you'll come to love the second half. I've seen it like 3 times now, 3 to 4. The first time I watched it, I think we just watched the first half, so that's why I say 3 to 4.
I always thought Kubrick, after Apocalypse Now, said, "Okay, I'm gonna make a Vietnam movie." I always thought that he, after Coppola did, he's like, "Okay, I gotta make a Vietnam movie."
I would imagine, yeah, that was probably like not a challenge to him, but he's like, yeah, this is ripe for storytelling. But yeah, to me, it's the best war film ever made.
Yeah, I know you like that. I didn't like it as much as you, but it is a very, very good movie. Star Wars I have on my list.
Which, the first?
Yeah. I mean, because you have no idea the cultural significance of that movie.
Culturally, yeah. That is really
all
important.
the other ones, they say, oh, this one may be better, but without the godfather of them all, that just changed a generation of kids.
It's
into sci-fi fans.
It's probably the first and the best example of a world-building movie.
Mm-hmm.
It does so much in one film.
Yeah.
It creates the world that you want to
experience. It was cartoonish in a way.
Yeah, but Ford is good. Hamill is very underrated. The guy who plays Obi-Wan is
that's Sir Alec Guinness.
Yeah, who's considered a tremendous actor.
Yeah.
And Princess Leia is a solid actress. All of them are really good. I like Episode 5 more, but you are absolutely correct. Without Star Wars, there would have never been. So
right. That created the universe.
Goodfellas is what I said. Let's go back to you. Or what we already talked about.
Yeah. So, I'm going to say the most current Dune I liked a lot. Because that's kind of personal for me, because I really...
You like that actual book and story?
Yeah.
The test is simple. Remove your hand from the box, and you die.
What's in the box?
pain.
To see it done well, yeah, and it feels really cool. I rated it much lower than probably you did. I think I only gave it a 3.5, and I think I want to see part 2 before
Yeah.
I'm crazy on it. It set it up really, really well. Good acting, but
I think it is missing the second part. I think once you have them both, either one, it'll improve the impression of either one individually.
I agree. The next one that I have, this might be a film that you actually haven't seen yourself yet.
I've never seen Chinatown, and I know it's a classic, considered a classic.
Chinatown.
It seems like half the city is trying to cover it all up, which is fine by me. But Mrs. Mulray, I goddamn near lost my nose, and I like it, and I still think that you're hiding something.
Is so well written.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Nicholson just putting on one of the best performances of his career, and that's saying a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. My God, yeah.
Because he delivers his lines so well. He's very charismatic in this, and you're unraveling the mystery with him. He's almost like the person that you want to be in the film.
Mm-hmm.
He's a stand-in for us, what we would want to be in the film.
Right.
And just tremendous story by Roman Polanski, who's never done a bad thing in his life.
Except the rape.
Yeah, that was a joke. A bad joke on my part. But yeah. So
yeah, rape jokes sometimes don't work out well.
Yep, just efficiently written and great script.
Friday Night Lights.
There ain't much difference between winning and losing, except for how the outside world treats you. But inside you, it's about all the same, you know. It really is. The fact of the matter is, I believe that our only curses are the ones that are self-imposed.
For me, it's part of our culture. It's an exciting movie.
Mm.
It's about football, which is the American sport. But it's exciting. The finale in the Superdome. No, the
Astrodome.
Astrodome. I like it. I liked
Billy Bob.
Billy Bob was good. Understated. As a coach, could have done that way differently, and he didn't. He did it the way that it should have been done. Or he wasn't a total screamer, but extremely firm, hard-nosed coach, but in his way, well done. And then the pressures he has too, as to win,
Mm-hmm.
and how he acts as that buffer between the expectations of the town and how he interacts with his team and stuff, and his definition of perfect and all that. And I very, very much like that movie.
That's my favorite sports movie, and that's an important genre of film.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like sports, it might not resonate with you, but I mean, I grew up loving football, and that is the...
Most of your earlier writing was about football.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that film, it always will be one of my favorites, just because I thought it did it so well. This one is one that I think is actually going to stand out for you, because I know it's a film you have not seen yet.
Correct.
Foreign film is worth checking out, because it's like only reading half of a book and staying away from an entire other half, just because it's slightly different than the first half.
Mm-hmm.
South Korea has, in the 2000s, come out. It's considered a film movement, which is any time something unique and interesting is coming out of a specific area, and it has distinct aspects to it. And South Korea is having a film movement that we're currently in right now. 2019 is evidence of this, because Best Picture was a South Korean film in Parasite, film I recently watched. Old Boy is the film in which you can most clearly delineate maybe perhaps where the movement started to gain a lot of popularity. Park Chan-wook, director of this, unfolds a completely captivating and disturbing story with action, violence, and mystery that if you have not been a fan of foreign films before, I say before you completely write it off, watch Old Boy.
Okay. Inception.
That's
Have you ever heard of it?
I think I have. No, yeah. Beyond that, Christopher Nolan has encapsulated a type of cinema that is just uniquely him.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just its own style, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, that movie is for sure. It
He does it with Memento, he does it with Interstellar. Oppenheimer isn't quite like that, but Tenet even kind of does it. He unfolds and tells stories in such a way. He's very, very unique, and he writes so differently than everyone else. And Inception is like the most that.
Yeah, kind of a very unconventional, unorthodox, not just the regular telling of a story. It has a lot of layers to it and so forth.
Yeah. That's where thoughtful meets mainstream and big budget. And the combination of that you never see, really.
Mm-hmm.
It took someone like Christopher Nolan for that to ever be incepted.
Yeah, don't try humor.
So, this is the Western. If you've never seen Westerns, that I recommend. It's my favorite Western. I haven't seen a ton. I've probably only seen like 20 to 25 Westerns. Because it just wasn't something that you were a big fan of, so I didn't grow up watching it like some people generally. I do think early childhood is when a lot of people started watching Westerns and why they watched into adulthood.
Right.
I came into it at an older age, and a lot of the Westerns that it's just like, oh, John Wayne's in this movie, that I can just like it because John Wayne's in it. I enjoy that now still, right? But obviously there's levels to this game, and Searchers is actually a story that's written that inspired a lot of movies moving forward.
Right away. Right away.
Yeah.
It's just really well. It's a beautiful film. Literally, it looks amazing, and its themes are really, really strong. And it's done by John Ford. It has John Wayne. It's the quintessential Western.
Yeah, I got Shawshank Redemption.
I love that film.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living, or get busy dying.
Very, very. It's hard. It's incredible how many Stephen King movies or Stephen King books have been made into really, really good movies. Like he's written a ton of books. He's just can't stop writing. He writes all the time, but so many of his have been turned into movies. It's incredible. But this probably the best. The Shining as well, but this is complete. This is
completely different than what he's known
it's not
for.
A horror movie at all.
Yeah, it goes to
Redemption.
the deepest. Yeah, that's the best word to say.
Yeah. Even though the main character didn't kill his wife. It's still a redemption type movie.
Yeah, it's a redemption in that it's like he gets to. It's like rebirth almost.
Yeah. Because his wife hated him. His wife's having an affair. I don't know if she hated him, but she was having an affair, and he kind of was an anonymous banker, nobody, With
it gave his life. He needed that to actually, arguably, be able to enjoy life to its fullest.
Yes.
The next film I have, you're gonna love this.
I'm sure.
Akira. There's a dubbed version and a subtitled version. I watched the dubbed version. I don't think you need to watch the subtitled version. But it's an animated movie. It's so big, right? But this captures like the animation, which when I say anime, there's like all those TV shows it is one of the coolest illustrated films I've ever seen. It has a really cool story that can really only be done through animation. And to like really truly experience that kind of subculture and subgenre on a level where it's actually presented to like the best effort.
Mm-hmm.
This is the film to watch. And I fell in love with it immediately after watching it. And I don't think any animated film I've watched prior or since has been able to top.
Weekend at Bernie's. There's more to this. No, I made that up. Okay. It was an analogy of genocide of the American Indian. No, we've talked about Apocalypse Now. I'll just mention it again because it's one of my favorites. I just think it's beyond. It's not about Vietnam, really. That's the setting for it.
It's like the corruption of the human soul.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses.
Are you an assassin? I'm a soldier.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Every man has got a breaking point. Walt Kurtz has reached his.
Yeah, it's an anti-war movie too, about the insanity of it. It just doesn't make any sense. There's no purpose, in it. It's nothing but death, and misery. Corruption of this, yeah, absolutely. Martin Sheen, although I don't know if to perfectly say like what happens, what his character becomes at the end. You know what he is going forward. He essentially has no. He's just basically like born to kill.
I think he's and look, I could be dead off on this because, like I said, it's been years since I've seen it. But I think he's like a slate in for what those spec ops guys are supposed to be.
A what?
Like I said, a slate in, but it's like he's not one person.
He's representative
of that those guys are like, we have a thing for you to do.
Yeah,
you gotta jump in and then jump out, and it's like they're heavily trained, but they're also like interchangeable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I do. Oh, although I mean, I don't know if that was the purpose when it was made. It was made in the 70s. Now we know all about this Navy SEALs and stuff like that, but back then we didn't know. You thought a Green Beret. Well,
I just have to think after communism started and our central intelligence agencies became much bigger, that the spec ops things were a thing before we really knew them.
Oh yeah. But I don't think he was doing that in that movie.
Oh,
because we didn't know of that. I mean, we knew of the CIA.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know a lot about special ops soldiers, though. They didn't talk about them like at all. You knew the Green Beret. A few people maybe have heard of the Navy SEALs.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what he really was. I don't even think he was technically even in the Army. He was one of those really super, well, not a mercenary, but he like his mission wasn't sanctioned. He said, we want you to do this, but we're not telling you to do it.
Well, that's a Black Op, though.
Well, when the Navy SEALs go do this, it's on the books.
Yeah,
they
but
were sending
a Black
him
Op
in.
is like...
Well, yeah. So it's...
redacted. Like, hey, we never told you to do this.
Yeah, it's like, who's this guy? Well, I don't know. It doesn't exist, Anyway, but that's the only thing I can... and that just kind of popped into my head. All right, you're next, I guess. Huh? Hope it's another cartoon.
Exorcist.
Okay.
Already talked about that.
Need we say more?
You go.
I like The Thing a lot.
Thing's spectacular. That's no film has ever done paranoia better.
Yeah, and I tell you what, special effects again, and it's an older. It's not late '90s, I think. I mean, I don't know how they did that stuff. Was it '80s?
Believe so. Yeah.
Just cool movie. I mean, I still think about that movie at times.
Yeah, and I think that's another Cold War special. I think that is kind of maybe what inspired parts of it, I would think. It's like, can't trust your fellow man.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way,
But it's not on the nose like a lot of that stuff is, but I think it could be like a film.
It could be anybody. The guy next to you who's your best friend is really a spy.
A monster, yeah.
All right.
And I don't know if you have any other horror movies, but this is my last horror movie. It's The Shining.
Here's Johnny.
Kubrick is arguably the best to ever do it, and when you have a director of such well-renowned and is just so, he does everything so well, and he does a horror film, it's worth watching.
Yeah.
I know I'd already said that Jack Nicholson, one of his best roles was in Chinatown. You can also argue that, his best role could be The Shining.
Yeah.
That might have an easier argument.
Yeah. And my last one is Return of the King from Lord of the Rings.
Solid movie.
Yeah.
I remember
I
watching.
forgot about this. What do you? She wants to go pee.
I got. Okay. Up next, I have Silence of the Lambs. This is Anthony Hopkins at probably his best. Great film that has like the face of a serial killer, kind of getting into that aspect of it all. Spectacularly done. Any film that really kind of covers that subject matter is automatically going to be interesting to me, and it's just a story that you can get so invested in because it is unique for what it did at that time, but now is something that I still don't think has been done super well since then. Then I have Seven, kind of captures that same kind of feel.
Yeah.
Great mystery / serial killer. Probably one of the best like twist endings of all time.
Yeah.
Then Big Lebowski. This is my second to last. I think it's one of those. It's a great neo-noir, and it's also hilarious. Maybe
it's a funny movie.
One of the funniest movies of all time. And I believe last but not least, Doctor Strangelove. I put a ton of Kubrick on this. I did a Kubrick ranked video, so I've been watching him a lot recently and reminiscing on how good his films are. This is satire in film that has never been done better. And
kind of dark satire, right?
Yeah,
I never
definitely.
saw the movie.
just calls out the ludicrousness of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And great source material, but like spectacularly acted too, and just completely perfectly executed. If any, I mean, he was the guy who could take really good source material and arguably
make it better.
I think you had Rocky on yours as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big deal at the time. Exciting movie, very exciting movie. Maybe a little dated now, but still, a guy down on his luck, last chance. Pours everything into it, and something good comes out of it.
Preeminent underdog story.
Right.
Well, those are our recommendations. Go out and watch them if you haven't seen them already. We appreciate you joining us. Thank you, Dadman.
Thank you, Travman.
And we will catch you on
the other side.
The flippity flip. Bye, y'all.